Introduction. People are asking how conservatives could be so broad out on these topics, or how disinformation campaigns could have such a strict control on the climate of social media. I don't think it's nearly as out in the open as the Kremlin shoveling money to peers and telling him to spike your reputation with hit piece segments. I think it's far more clandestine than that. I think it's a magic trick they're pulling using a zombified internet, not a completely dead internet, but one that's just alive enough to make it feel real, because that's how it inspires people to feel like they really believe what they've been led to believe. Anti-fans. You know, anti-fans are almost immediately culled from all areas of the community. Whenever they show themselves to be anti-fans, if every time a topic comes up, there are 10 people spiking the conversation with downvotes / upvotes / retweets / likes, supportive comments, combative comments that drive things in a singular direction, then it has an outsized influence on the overall zeitgeist. If someone walked into an anti-fan thread, gave some pushback against that criticism, and were immediately hit with aggressive comments, a cavalcade, is that a word, of downvotes, and all the people they were arguing with in the comment chains were supporting each other with upvotes, then it sets the dominant tone for the thread. Something that I've always wanted to do, I don't know, Reddit would have the technology. Zeitgeist, I don't know. I feel like it'd be so fascinating to A/B test Reddit threads where you put two different threads at the top and you start them out with 5 upvotes, and then you see if like both threads go in entirely different directions. I feel like it has a huge impact. That when you open up a thread, if the first comment that you see sets the tone for how you perceive everything else. Yeah. Whatever is popular to say, agree with, disagree with, and the whatever is the popular manner in which these conversations happen dictates the tone for everyone else who comes in afterwards. You might enter that thread and feel like you're making the decision to try and give a moderated response against a bunch of overly aggressive anti-fans, but if those anti-fans weren't there at all, you wouldn't have contributed even that moderated take. You wouldn't have had your stress increase by interacting with the anti-fan agitators in the first place. You may have clicked into a thread of wholesome positivity or random memes. The anti-fans, all supporting each other, cultivate a climate of aggression, anger, and strife that mobilizes and co-ops the goodwill of an otherwise mundane social media space. You're either willing to slug it out with a horde of anti-fans and go to war with them, or your rhetoric is made to fall in line with theirs to avoid the blowback and repercussions of those anti-fans and all the people those anti-fans inspire to interact similarly. No matter which side you take, you've eaten the strife and aggression of having to pick a side to begin with, and the topic you pick a side on was dictated by the anti-fans. Botnets and magic tricks. A Russian botnet only has to make it more difficult to express opinions in a given direction, and it will change the climate of acceptable language that gets picked up, amplified, and propagated by real actors that use that space. It functions just like a group of anti-fans, and it only has to move the range of acceptable responses slightly in order to win out on the law of averages. It's exactly like standing still and staring at the ceiling. You'll get randoms to stop and stare because seeing you staring makes other people want to be included. If one person staring at the ceiling convinced one person to stop and stare, then how much more effective is it if a whole network of people pulled every lever available to them to get more people to stop and stare? Their goals aren't to make any one person change any one opinion. It's to change the climate in which opinions are formed in the public so that those opinions feel more real, more authentic, and more powerful to those real humans. Piers very likely believes that he has righteous indignation on his side when he calls you out on his show, and the messed up part about socially engineered bot networks to influence media is that Piers doesn't even have to be complicit or aware of what's happening. It's like a magician who plants a suggestion in the audience such that a person wants to say the answer the magician wants to hear, all without the person being aware that it's happening. See this report from a recent FBI takedown of a Russian propaganda botnet. This report, what is this? 14 pages. State-sponsored Russian media leverages Meliorator software for foreign malign influence activity, creating authentic, appearing social media personas en masse, deploying content similar to typical social media users, mirroring disinformation of other bot personas, perpetuating the use of pre-existing false narratives to amplify malign foreign influence, and formulating messages to include the topic and framing based on the specific archetype of the bot. Oh, shit. As early as 2022, that's when, I think February 2022 is when we started to see some of these accounts being created. As early as 2022, RT had access to Meliorator, an AI-enabled bot farm generation and management software to disseminate disinformation to and about a number of countries, including the United States, Poland, Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Ukraine, and Israel. Meliorator, am I pronouncing this correctly? Meliorator was designed to be used on social media networks to create authentic appearing personas en masse, allowing for the propagation of disinformation, which could assist Russia in exacerbating discord and trying to alter public opinion as part of information operations. As of June 2024, Meliorator only worked on X, formerly known as Twitter. However, additional analysis suggests the software's functionality would likely be expanded to other social media networks. To provide this functionality, Meliorator. Oh, that makes sense, I guess, huh? To provide this functionality, Meliorator includes an administrator panel called Brigadier and a seeding tool called Terrace. In order to access Meliorator, users would connect by means of a virtual network computing connection using Redmine software, which supports 49 languages, is multi-platform, can be used across databases for project management. Developers hosted Meliorator at this website. Terra serves as the back end of the Meliorator software package containing JSON files used to control the personas sowing disinformation on social media. These files are highly decentralized code, which need to be combined with other files upon execution in order to achieve desired functionality. Two specific files are vital to the functionality of Terra. The first file is designed to aggregate a number of other tools and databases for their use, and the second is designed to aggregate and execute a number of automation tools used by Meliorator. Souls. The identities or so-called souls of these bots are determined based on the selection of specific parameters or archetypes selected by the user. Any field not pre-selected would be auto-generated. Bot archetypes are then created a group ideologically aligned bots using a specifically crafted algorithm to construct each bot's persona, oh my god, it's like procedurally generated people. Determining the location, political ideologies, and even biographical data of the persona. These details are automatically filled in based on the selection of the soul's archetype. Once Terrace creates the identity, it is registered on the social media platform. The identities are stored using a MongoDB, which can allow for ad hoc queries, indexing, load balancing, aggregation, and server-side JavaScript execution. The Thoughts tab contains automated scenarios or actions which can be completed on behalf of a soul or a group of souls. This allows the personas to like, share, repost, and comment on other posts with videos or links. The Thoughts tab also allowed for maintenance, creating a new registration for an identity and logging into already existing profiles. The framework for the Thoughts tab and the scenarios it creates can be seen in the code. These files are written separately, and a parent file calls to smaller files in order to fulfill the function. Figure 3 is an aggregator file to trigger the functionality for scenarios of specific interest. It calls the thoughts from the MongoDB and calls for the files which provide the GUI its functionality, making it more user-friendly. Notably, the same code contains references to other social media platforms, to include Facebook and Instagram, indicating an intent to expand the project beyond X as seen in Figure 5. Oh, so it's creating like entries for different social media platform names, as saying that they want to expand it. Operators of Terrace use the Thoughts tab to log into an already existing bot farm personas. Once a soul is live on the social media platform, the identity card for the persona presents a login screen for the social media platform. To avoid detection of the course of their online activity, each bot account is created with one of 3 different functions in mind. Using the Souls tab, the persona is generated for specific archetypes, which then stay with the bot throughout its lifespan. The first bot archetype gets complete profiles consisting of a profile photo, cover photo, and biographical data, including name and location. These bots also have small biographies indicating their political leanings or ideologies. If a bot has this information, they will be used heavily to propagate information and will conduct the most robust activity. Profile photos for the bots were generated using AI technologies. In these instances, the tools used an open source available tool called Faker to generate the photos, biographical information, and other details. A second bot archetype contains very little information on its profile, if any. Usually the profile consists of a username and very little original content, and is used to like already shared information. The final bot archetype was created using data compiled by a web crawler associated with the Nemzeta website, or by other data repositories to create an authentic appearing persona with no AI ties. This bot appears real by generating a lot of activity and garnering followers. Of all the bot archetypes, this bot persona appears the most legitimate and is used to mirror and amplify disinformation shared by bots and non-bot accounts. Bot persona accounts make obvious attempts to avoid bans for terms of service violations and avoid being noticed as bots by blending into the larger social media environment. The majority of accounts being followed by the bot personas boasted more than 100,000 followers, which would be necessary for a bot persona to avoid detection when interacting with other accounts. Additionally, much like authentic accounts, these bots follow genuine accounts reflective of their political leanings and interests listed in their biography. Exceptions to the 100,000 follower rule included following the accounts of other bots and or highly publicized accounts which would make sense for an individual interested in U.S. politics to follow, such as well-known politicians. The tool is capable of receiving and replying to direct messages, but generally tries to avoid doing so in order to limit the need to respond in real time. The identified bot personas associated with the Meliorator tool are capable of the following: deploying content similar to typical social media users, such as generating original posts, following others, liking, commenting, reposting, and obtaining followers, mirroring disinformation of other bot personas through their messaging, replies, reposts, and biographies, perpetuating the use of pre-existing false narratives to amplify Russian disinformation, obfuscation techniques. Carried as the Meliorator tool considered a number of barriers to detection and attempted to mitigate those barriers by coding within the tool the ability to obfuscate their IP, bypass dual-factor authentication, and change the user agent string. How are you bypassing two-factor authentication? Or does it just mean like pass to you? Like, does it mean like not use it or like pass it? I guess passing two-factor would actually be trivial, right? You could theoretically just run like an Authy for every single fake account you make, and I think that would be a trivial thing, right? Operators avoid detection by using a back-end code designed to auto-assign a proxy IP address to the AI-generated persona based on their assumed location. The developer wrote a portion of code to check and see if a proxy and specific port is located in a MongoDB specified in the same code. If not, it then finds an open active IP given a country code value. That's smart, right? So it makes sure that it's not overlapping IPs so that you can never just say like, oh, look, these are all bots. Like there's 5 of them on the same IP address or 100 on the same IP address, right? Okay, let's say that the whole Russian stuff is going on, which looks like it really could be in some way. If the topic is really hard to approach from either side, do you think the FBI, et cetera, wouldn't publish /warn/do stuff because of the hardness to approach politically, or do you just think this is interesting from a journalist? Wait, hold on. Firstly, we're reading something published by the government right now. Number 1. Okay. Number 2, the FBI already has tried to give sites and stuff heads up on this. Remember, that was a big part of like the Twitter files. When they said that the FBI gave them a heads up on like 100,000 accounts where they were like, these accounts might be Chinese, these might be like, bots or whatever. Remember, all of the conservatives just say, oh, bullshit. They were just trying to flag conservatives. So we can't have that conversation anymore. You just can't talk about it. Because if you bring any of this up, they go, Russiagate, really? 2024 and you're still talking about Russiagate? No, I don't want the FBI ever talking to any social media website ever because it's all Russiagate. So you can't talk about this. Okay, so run with me for a second, okay? Yesterday, it seemed like a lot of what looked like bot accounts were also like followers of sports, right? That like they like to talk about football and shit, but then also had very, very, very strong comments to make politically. What if you and you're like a tech company, you get like 20 of your employees to come together and you start tweeting about like a fake sport event. Just like the 20 of you tweet about a fake sport event and you get enough like people in the office to kind of amplify it and you go back and forth. And then you see if you can get other people to amplify and riff off that event in order to weed out like bot accounts. Like imagine if you invented a fake event like that and then you tweeted it out and you started talking amongst yourselves about it. And as part of a bot network, it picked up on like these events and it started to amplify them. And you could tell like, oh, well, hold on. There's like 1,000 other people saying they went to this fake football game that we just invented. But I guess there's no real point in that. I say that like, but catching the bots doesn't really matter because with this technology, you could literally just delete and recreate hundreds of thousands of them in an instant. It wouldn't really matter at all, huh? Wait, what'd you say? Do you not think it's probable that many are also guided by real people at any given time? No. My guess would be less than 0.0001% are actually controlled by people. Maybe if there's like a really, really, really big account that's starting to get like accused of being a bot, maybe somebody personally logs into it. But my guess would be most of this is probably set and forget and managed on the back end. Even if an account does get caught as being a bot, they probably don't give a fuck because why would they care? Actually, you know what? They probably wouldn't, even for big accounts getting caught. Who the fuck cares? It's not like it would stop like the bots en masse. You just let it get figured out. Any millisecond that you put towards trying to salvage that account would probably just be better spent working on securing more infrastructure for more bots, right? You can hire click farms in third world countries, though. I don't know why you keep saying that. I don't think that's relevant anymore. I think that click farms were good when the infrastructure was probably more expensive and the software was less sophisticated, because human bot farms were probably competitive in cost and they helped you get around a lot of stuff like CAPTCHA and everything. But if you can solve it with software, remember that software can be deployed in as many millions or billions of instances as you've got infrastructure available to you to deploy it, right? Humans aren't the same. Humans are limited. There's only so many of them, and bot farmers only have so many people. Like, interesting that you think Twitter is uniquely culpable in all of this because the Meliorator bot farm has only had the capabilities to operate on Twitter. To be clear, I've only brought up Twitter because that's the platform I use. It might be just as bad on Facebook. I really have no idea. I don't know anything else about. The FBI thinks Meliorator was going to be expanded to other social media networks. Almost like Twitter was the testing ground to refine its functionality on a website that gave a particular deterrence or deference to make mistakes and correct them. The types of mistakes that would make it obvious to an honest actor that the website was infected by a sophisticated botnet. When did Musk buy Twitter? It was in 2022 is when the completion of the acquisition happened. Initiated in April. Somebody said, I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody said in chat that because the API access is so heavily restricted now, that it's a lot harder to do research on this type of thing. I don't know if that's true or not, if that would make it easier or not to research this particular thing, but if you're so aggressively free speech as to allow for an unfathomable number of bots to run rampant on the platform, sowing discord and frame it as a feature of free speech, then you can get plenty of people to applaud it. The inflammatory rhetoric is a necessary conclusion of simply being patriotic. Of course, this is normal. This is what should happen in American society. This is what free speech is supposed to look like. You're supposed to be angry at each other all the time. You're not supposed to have mere disagreements. Everything must be ratcheted up to the highest stakes and use the most aggressive language to wage rhetorical war against those stakes, or over those stakes. Oh, and you don't even need to decide what stakes you want to argue over. You'll find the opinions you should be angered by when you show up to participate in the conversation. Groupthink. It's Russian bots making it unfashionable to disagree with their narratives by commenting aggressively against people who disagree, downvoting them, sharing things that make them look stupid, and having other bots boost engagement, etc. They play both sides to create discord and misery, but always to the end of massaging the narratives within the boundaries that benefit Russian interests. If they can get 5 accounts to follow all of your anti-Trump videos commenting how you're a insert whatever slander, then it boils the frog one comment at a time, and it only needs to change the temperature 1 degree at a time to be meaningful. Russia spends money on operating these botnets, and the cost for everyone who interacts with them are real-world frustration, aggression, and strife that rewrites the political climate of an entire country. That's also why you can see talking points crop up out of seemingly nowhere. All of a sudden, swaths of people care deeply about topics that benefit and align with Russian propaganda. Do you ever wonder how vaccines got politicized? A State Department spokesperson confirmed to PolitiFact that has identified 4 publications directed by Russian intelligence services: Newsfront, New Eastern or Outlook, Oriental Review, and Rebel Inside. The first 3 sites have frequently spread disinformation about the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines, while Rebel Inside largely ceased publishing material a year ago. What is this? Hold on. Pillars of Russia's disinformation propaganda system. Official government communications. So the Kremlin or ministry statement, official Russian social media post, statement or quote by a Russian official. So highly visible connection to Russia, and then as you go down, the connection is either obscured or denied. All the way down to cyber-enabled disinformation, hack and release, site capture, cloned websites, forgeries, disruption of official sources, or objective material. Oh, and they've got like an example for every single one of these. It seems like it. They've got footnotes for everything. Official government communications, AP. Russia claims the U.S. is running secret bioweapons lab in Georgia. Oh, so here's the official statement. Oh, if this is actually laid out how it looks at first glance, this is such a well-done report. I wonder how many people even looked at this shit. And then state-funded global messaging. COVID-19 brings attention to U.S. secret laboratories on the borders of Russia and China. Local language-specific outlets, Slovakia and Germany. Witting proliferators of Russian narratives. The Moscow Times, Hybrid Truth. Unwitting proliferators of Russian narratives. That's where a lot of our part of the internet hopefully falls into. They're unwitting, right? And then foreign state narrative amplification. I wonder who the 2 unwitting sources are that have all been identified as part of this chain. And then here's the unwitting proliferators of Russian narratives. NATO.int. The Lisa case. Germany is a target of Russian disinformation. Oh, wait, this isn't an example of disinformation. This is an example of a website talking about it, right? Pretty open on dates, but give me a rough idea of when you want to do this. Lex Friedman wants to set up a debate between me and Alex Jones. It's going to be over this stuff, though. Fuck, not this stuff, but the report on the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Oh, shit. The Robert Mueller thing. That guy. Then you've got weaponization of social media, and then cyber-enabled disinformation. Examples one. Okay. How Russians' disinformation propaganda spreads. The media multiplier effect. False claim. The U.S. created COVID-19. So the narrative begins. See footnotes. Zvezda TV interviews expert. Zhirinovsky makes a claim. Proxy sites amplify. The narrative spreads on social media. RT and Sputnik amplify. The narrative begins to diffuse into the information environment in February. At this point, the narrative is fully diffused in the information environment. See the red footnote. March to April. Official government communications. So we've got examples of all these state-funded global messaging by state-controlled media. I imagine all state-funded media in Russia is probably state-controlled, I would imagine. Cultivation of proxy sources, Newsfront, and then geopolitica.ru, weaponization of social media, and then cyber-enabled disinformation. What is this? Ghostwriters influence campaign. Unknown actors leverage website compromises and fabricated content to push narratives aligned with Russian security interests. Mandiant threat intelligence has tied together several information operations that we assess with moderate confidence comprise part of a broader influence campaign ongoing since at least March 2017, aligned with Russian security interests. The operations have primarily targeted audiences in Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland with narratives critical of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's presence in Eastern Europe, occasionally leveraging other themes such as anti-US and COVID-19 related narratives as part of this broader anti-NATO agenda. And this was in 2020, so years before the full invasion. Jesus. Okay. Russia can snap its fingers and flood the airwaves with bots yelling at each other over made-to-order narratives, like making it fashionable to hate the government and distrust life-saving vaccines in the height of a pandemic. And it's so convincing that real people interacting in it, or in that thought-infected ecosystem, will honestly, earnestly believe that they adopted those talking points all of their own. They naturally follow the tribe the groupthink invites them to slot themselves into. Think of Russia's disinformation campaigns not as manipulating individuals, but as manipulating the entire landscape of acceptable discourse online via a manufactured pro-Russian tit-for-tat game theory. All they have to do is influence what gets positive or negative responses enough to influence the system, and the effects of that systemic manipulation will be amplified all the way through every person who engages with it without their awareness or consent. Progress aggression. I find it particularly alarming that Trump's campaign is so focused on pushing the advances of AI, considering how extremely left-aligned Silicon Valley is. Wait, has Trump's campaign talked about pushing AI? Coal miners and truck drivers don't care about AI. It's wild to me that Trump somehow managed to co-opt AI as part of his platform. If your entire political career is benefiting from botnets enabled by artificial intelligence R&D, then wouldn't you want to prime conservatives to make AI a matter of their patriotic duty to support? I'm not saying Donald Trump was made a viable candidate, propped up in part by Russian bot farms influencing social media to hijack the conservative party, in large part by Elon Musk doing a hostile takeover of Twitter as a Russia-focused AI playground. All I'm saying is, if he and Musk were interested in enabling and benefiting from such a Russian bot farm to manipulate U.S. politics and their interests, then I would expect them to be drafting plans to create Manhattan projects that will develop AI, military technology, and review regulations put in place by President Joe Biden, specifically so that they can control the technology that's gotten them where they are. And then he links a news story. Trump allies are working on a plan to create the Manhattan Project for AI military tech report. The Post noted that the framework also contains a section called Make America First in AI, which aligns with the 2016 Trump admin's commitment to strengthening American leadership in the field. If such plans go ahead, they will likely benefit the former president's tech donors, including Tesla's billionaire Elon Musk. Musk endorsed Trump in July following the assassination attempt on the former president. Soon after, it was reported he would donate $45 million to a new super PAC called America PAC, which has garnered support from others in Silicon Valley. It's just like, this is so outside of what we've been, like history, law, politics. I don't have enough time in the day. The big hack, how China used a tiny chip to infiltrate U.S. companies. The attack by Chinese spies reached almost 30 U.S. companies, including Amazon and Apple, by compromising America's technology supply chain, according to extensive interviews with government and corporate sources. The entire point is that this is completely fake. Wait, this Bloomberg article is completely fake? Do they say that at the end? Or was it like exposed as being fake? Or are people just saying it's fake? The chip would be disobeying the laws of physics? Okay, hold on. Nested on the server's motherboards, the testers found a tiny microchip, not much bigger than a grain of rice, that wasn't part of the board's original design. Amazon reported the discovery to U.S. authorities, sending a shudder through the intelligence community. Elemental servers could be found in Department of Defense data centers. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. These are like things that are running through my mind right now, but my tech knowledge is like not as great. I think when you're printing off, when you're doing printed circuit boards, before you start placing like microchips or anything on the board has to have like lanes crafted and everything for signals and everything to flow through, right? I don't think that, like, if you've got a board, if you have a PCB, however, you could also perhaps print like a whole bunch of stock PCBs that have lanes that aren't used for other applications, potentially, right? Maybe. But I would just say that, like, there's a little bit of a red flag. Keep in mind, again, very limited information. You can't just take a PCB and like stick a thing on it anywhere, right? You can't do that. There's multiple reasons why this probably wouldn't work, right? Like, one is that there might not even be the lanes here that are already cut or etched into the board that would allow this to communicate with anything, number one. Number two, whatever this thing is interacting with needs to have some sort of input. If we're talking just like a simple circuit, then it can just be like an on-off switch, I guess. But for like microchips and stuff, it's incredibly sophisticated. So it would have to be like breaking into some lane or something that already has access and is recognized and understood by the whatever device is flowing into, which I imagine can be done. Like, I'm sure there are like hacky ways to do this. Like, for instance, if there was like a lane cut for memory in a computer, and if it was, I don't know if like memory is encrypted between like the CPU and like RAM. I don't know if that's true, but if you could put a chip in between here, I'm sure you could at least like read the data going through, assuming it's unencrypted at this hardware level. I don't know or not. But these are just like things floating in my mind. I don't know how much of this is like possible, impossible, what's like whatever. But okay, let's see. Nested on the server's motherboard, testers found a tiny microchip not bigger than a grain of rice that wasn't part of the board's original design. This sentence is just a really big red flag for me. Like, but that's, they could know more than me, or they don't know anything. There's one of the two here, but okay. Amazon reported the discovery to U.S. authorities, sending a shudder. So this is saying, it seems like something real was happening here. Amazon reported the discovery to, during the ensuing top secret probe, which remains open more than 3 years later, investigators determined that the chips allowed the attackers to create a stealth doorway into any network that included the altered machines. A stealth doorway into any network that included the altered machines. A stealth doorway into any network, like Ethernet, like any type of internet network. Are we talking about the what's the stupid fucking, what's this called? Where are my comp sci fucking losers? What's the name of like the stack? Is this it? Is it the protocol stack or the network stack? Is this what they're referring to? OSI model. Is that what this is? Oh yeah, okay. This attack was something graver than the software-based incidents of the world has grown accustomed to seeing. Hardware attacks are more difficult to pull off and potentially more devastating, promising the kind of long-term stealth access that spy agencies are willing to invest millions of dollars and many years to get. Okay, I'm getting a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I'm speaking with a lot of conviction here on something that maybe I shouldn't be, because what the fuck do I know? This sounds like super bullshit to me. Hardware attacks could be devastating because it can give you special or unique access to a system that you wouldn't have online, obviously, right? I mean, the most obvious example would be if you air gap a machine, if it has no external connection, then theoretically you have no access to the machine at all. So, okay, boom, wow, there, okay. If you have hardware access, you immediately can hack a machine like this. But software access, for a variety of reasons, can give you a ton of different things that hardware access might not necessarily be able to give you. No, like if there's boot protections or if there are hardware protections built into a computer, then having all the hardware hacking in the world wouldn't give you access. But if you could like root somebody's OS, right? If you've got access to their Windows account, to their system, that software access is giving you way more than some random shit on a motherboard would theoretically give you. I don't know if I would ever say that. Also keep in mind, software hacks theoretically could spread to every single computer on the planet in days, or 50% of computers on the planet in days, right? Hardware is a lot more difficult, costly, time-consuming, and also it can be discovered easier as well. Let's say, for instance, people see a board or see a computer and there's a thing there that's not supposed to be there, right? Okay, well, this isn't right? You can see it immediately. I'm not trying to shit on hardware hacks or hardware exploits. I'm just saying that I feel like I know enough about computers and software stuff that I don't think I would ever make the blanket statement of hardware hacks are way worse than software hacks, right? Stuxnet, the software, that was a software attack that destroyed Iran's centrifuges, okay? That was software. The idea that hardware is just definitely potentially more devastating, sure, but anything can be. Also, keep in mind too, stealth access that spy agencies are willing to invest millions of dollars. My guess would be updating hardware is probably a lot more difficult. Updating firmware on hardware could theoretically be more difficult than updating software on a compromised machine as well. Maybe, maybe not, but I don't know. Okay. If they're talking about network chips infecting networks, it'd have to monitor layer 3 and 4 of the OSI model. Let's say that they wanted to access certain things that could watch layer 4, the transport layer, but I can't imagine it being easy to pull off or hell even make. Sure. Hardware hacks can't be detected by software. That is the big thing. Example, BIOS hacks can live outside of kernel space and can read all of the things in theory. I'm almost positive that there would still be ways to detect these things. I don't agree with you. Unless you're talking about building a whole separate module that can do everything, I don't believe you. I don't believe that. I don't believe that's true. I'm sure theoretically it could maybe, but I don't think that's a given. Having a well-done nation-state level hardware implant surface would be like witnessing a unicorn jumping over a rainbow. There are two ways for spies to alter the guts of computer equipment. One, known as interdiction, consists of manipulating devices as they're in transit from manufacturer to customer. This approach is favored by U.S. spy agencies, according to documents leaked by former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden. The other method involves seeding changes from the very beginning. One country in particular has an advantage executing this kind of attack, China, which by some estimates makes 75% of the world's mobile phones and 90% of its PCs. Still, hold on, just as a quick thing, because I truly don't know. When they say China, are they including Taiwan here? I thought that the majority of semiconductor manufacturing, or I thought a fuck ton of it was done by Taiwan. Because if some of the final stages of assembly are done in China, that's a lot different than them building from the microprocessor on up. Most hardware hacks are done by intercepting the DIMM via a solder or PCIe connection, have software read before it's passed to the CPU, and it's completely detectable. Well, but I mean, even a PCIe device shouldn't necessarily be able to read stuff coming off the RAM, no? Give me a modern motherboard. 14th gen Intel motherboard. The PCI lanes don't cross there, do they? Why do you keep... I'm not a bot. Stop. Why are the lanes so hard to see on motherboards these days? Why is it fucking retarded? Didn't it used to be really obvious you could see the physical lanes on the boards? Or am I making this up? I thought on older motherboards you could just see the physical lanes. Or maybe I'm just thinking inside the manuals. PCIe is a protocol. You don't need them to cross to read the lanes. PCIe... Wait. Is a protocol? No, PCI lanes represent physical lanes on a motherboard. No? Can you see it on the back of the motherboard? Ugh, it won't show me the back. Back of a motherboard. I feel like you used to be able to see these easier, but maybe not. I might be crazy. Manufacturers paint everything black now. That's why it's harder to see the tracers. PCIe is just a standard for a connection type. When they used to talk about CPUs having a certain number of PCI lanes available to them, didn't this refer to actual inputs on the actual CPU PCB of how many different lanes of data that were accessible that could be utilized by a CPU at any given point in time? You're right, chatters are retarded. Okay, yeah, I can't tell how many people are just saying random shit. It's both physical and protocol. You're permabanned. You're permabanned for even saying that. Yourself, you fucking retard. Isn't a USB cable a real thing? Actually, USB 3.0 refers to a standard. Yeah, there might be a protocol, but I'm pretty sure that the lanes themselves, that's not like a software term. That like placement of objects on a motherboard and like even distance to the like CPU and the types of physical access that you get to the CPU are important. When you plug stuff into a motherboard, it's not all just going through one fucking cable to the CPU. That there are different lanes, there are different hardware lanes that have different specifications for bandwidth, for power, for the type of access that it gets to the CPU, for the way that the CPU reads the stuff and processes it, for the types of access it gets to other components on the board. There are differences here. I'm almost positive that right here. We're not talking about this. I can't talk about tech with chat. Most of you are fucking retarded. I don't trust any of you on this. Never mind. We're off this topic. Hold on. PCI is just software? Yourself. I'm done. I don't know why I'm doubting myself. Fuck you. Okay. Progress and aggression. Okay, that was this guy's email. Listen, I love you all very much also. If you're sending me long emails, I'm probably deleting them and not reading them. Post it on my subreddit. I don't have time to go through it. Like 50 people have sent me like fucking manifestos, okay?